A woman holds her son in 1931, but when people zoom in on the boy's face, something feels strange. Dr. Margaret Chen adjusted her reading glasses as she carefully studied the old photograph that had arrived at the Smithsonian archives that morning. The black and white image from 1931 showed a gentle moment. A woman in a plain cotton dress hugging a young boy who looked about 8 years old. They stood in front of what seemed to be a small farmhouse somewhere in rural Kansas, judging by the flat land and wooden fence visible behind them. Just another Depression-era family photograph, Margaret quietly said to herself, noticing the woman's worn-out shoes and the patches on the boy's clothes that revealed the hardship of those difficult years. The photograph had been donated by the estate of Elena Hartwell, along with dozens of other family keepsakes from the early 20th century. But as Margaret picked up her magnifying glass to inspect the photograph for preservation work, something suddenly made her stop. The woman's face showed true motherly love, her arms wrapped protectively around the child. Her expression looked soft and caring, exactly what you would expect from a mother holding her son. The boy, however, was different. Margaret leaned in closer, her breathing slowing slightly. While the woman looked at the child with clear affection, the boy's eyes stared straight ahead with an intensity that felt deeply unsettling for someone so young. His small hands, which should have rested naturally in his mother's embrace, hung stiffly at his sides. "That's strange," she whispered, moving the desk lamp to get a clearer view of the image. The longer she studied the boy's face, the more uneasy she became. There was something in his expression that didn't belong to childhood innocence. It felt too mature, too controlled, too aware for an 8-year-old child. Margaret wrote a quick note in her research journal. "Unusual family photograph. Further investigation into the Hartwell family recommended." She had no idea that this single image would uncover a mystery hidden for more than 90 years, changing everything she believed about motherhood, grief, and the secrets families bury in silence. 3 days later, Margaret found herself driving along the winding roads of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, heading toward the large Victorian house that once belonged to Elena Hartwell. The elderly woman had died at the age of 97, leaving behind a carefully organized estate and a reputation in the small town of Contre, Millfield, as someone who had lived quietly but with purpose. Eleanor's great-niece, Sarah Morrison, greeted Margaret at the front door. Sarah was a woman in her 40s with gentle eyes and streaks of grey in her brown hair tied back a simple ponytail. She worked as a librarian in Philadelphia, but had taken time away from work to handle her great-aunt's belongings. "I'm really glad someone from the Smithsonian is interested in Aunt Eleanor's company." "Lection," Sarah said, as she guided Margaret through rooms filled with carefully preserved furniture and framed photographs. She loved family history, although she was always very secretive about certain parts of our past. The house felt frozen in another time. Hardwood floors creaked beneath their feet while walls lined with family portraits stretched down long hallways. Margaret noticed many photographs were professionally mounted and labeled in Elena's careful handwriting. She never married or had children, Sarah explained, but she dedicated her entire life to preserving our family's history. She always used to say photographs were windows into people's souls. She believed they showed truths people tried to hide. They entered Elena's study, a warm room filled with towering bookshelves and a large oak desk covered with magnifying glasses, photo albums, and stacks of research papers. Sarah picked up a leather journal from the desk. "This may interest you," she said, handing it to Margaret. "These are Aunt Eleanor's notes about the 1931 photograph you mentioned on the phone. She spent years trying to understand that image." Margaret carefully opened the journal. The pages were filled with dates, observations, and handwritten questions. One entry immediately caught her attention. "The boy in the mother's arms. Why do his eyes hold such darkness? What did he know that we never understood? The truth about Thomas must exist somewhere inside these photographs." "Thomas?" Margaret looked up. "Who was Thomas?" Sarah's expression turned uneasy. "That's the problem," she said quietly. "We're not completely sure." Sarah poured 2 cups of coffee from an old percolator while Margaret spread several photographs across the kitchen table. Afternoon sunlight poured through lace curtains, casting patterned shadows over the old images. "What I'm about to tell you may sound odd," Sarah began as she sat down. "Growing up, I heard whispered stories from older relatives about a boy named Thomas who lived with my great-grandmother Ruth Hartwell during the early 1930s. But none of the stories ever matched. She pointed toward the 1931 photograph that had started Margaret's investigation. Some family members claimed Thomas was Ruth's son who died from influenza. Others insisted he wasn't related to her at all, just a child she cared for temporarily. A few relatives even believed Thomas never existed and that the photograph showed somebody else entirely. Margaret studied the image again, focusing on the boy's strange expression. What did Elena believe? That's what makes all this so fascinating, Sarah replied, reaching into a manila envelope. Last year, Aunt Eleanor found another photograph hidden among papers in the attic. The second photograph, also taken in 1931 but clearly months later based on the clothing, showed Ruth Hartwell standing alone in front of the farmhouse. She looked exhausted, almost haunted, with her hands tense, tightly clasped together. Most importantly, the boy was gone. "Turn it over," Sarah said softly. Margaret flipped the photograph. Written in faded ink on the back were the words, "After Thomas left us, may God forgive what we allowed to happen." Margaret felt cold chills spread through her body. "But your relatives said he died of influenza." "Exactly," Sarah replied grimly. "That's when Aunt Eleanor realized our family had hidden secrets for nearly 100 years. She handed Margaret a third photograph. This one was hidden behind the frame of an old mirror. The image showed Ruth Hartwell standing with a completely different boy. This child had lighter hair and a bright, natural smile. The resemblance between Ruth and this child was obvious. "This," Sarah whispered, "was Ruth's real son, James. He died of pneumonia in early 1931, only days after this photograph was taken." Margaret returned to Washington, D.C., with copies of all three photographs and Elena's research notes. The next morning, she visited Dr. James Patterson, a specialist in historical photograph analysis at Georgetown University. "I need you to examine these carefully," she told him. "I want to know everything. The paper, chemicals, any signs of tampering or manipulation." James was a careful researcher in his mid-50s who had helped solve several historical mysteries using photographs and documents. He placed the first image beneath a powerful digital microscope connected to a computer monitor. "Interesting," he murmured after several minutes. "What is it?" Margaret asked. "The photograph is authentic," James explained. "The paper and chemical makeup are consistent with 1931 photography, but there's something unusual about the image quality." He pointed to the area around the boy's face. "The grain pattern here is slightly different. Very subtle, but it suggests additional exposure or processing." Margaret leaned closer. "What does that mean?" "I'm not sure yet." James moved to the second photograph of Ruth standing alone. "This image has no irregularities," he said. "It's completely normal." But when he examined the third photograph of Ruth with her son James, he suddenly sat upright. "Margaret, look at this." He overlaid both photographs on the computer screen. "Notice the fence posts, shadows, and farmhouse position. The backgrounds are almost identical." Margaret stared at the screen. They were taken in the same place. "More than that," James continued. "Look at Ruth's dress. The same tear near her shoulder, same scuff mark on her shoe. These photographs were probably taken on the same day." Margaret's pulse quickened. "You're saying Ruth posed with two different boys within hours?" "That's exactly what I'm saying." Armed with this new discovery, Margaret traveled to Millfield, Kansas, where the Hartwell family had lived in 1931. The small farming town, now home to fewer than 2,000 residents, still kept Depression-era records inside. Its old town hall. Mary Kowalski, the town clerk, welcomed Margaret warmly. She was in her 70s and had spent her entire life in Millfield. "Ruth Hartwell," Mary said thoughtfully while pulling dusty records from a cabinet. "Yes, my grandfather delivered her son James back in 1923. Poor child was sickly from birth. Died of pneumonia in February 1931. Broke Ruth's heart." Margaret showed her the photographs. "This is definitely Ruth," Mary confirmed. "And this boy here," she said, pointing to James, "looks exactly like the Hartwell family." But when she examined the photograph of Ruth with the dark-haired child, her face became troubled. "I don't recognize this boy at all," she admitted. "And during the Depression, everybody knew everyone's children." She stared at the image more closely. "There's something unsettling about his eyes, almost like he's older than he looks." Mary checked the town records carefully. There are no records showing another child living with Ruth H. in 1931. No adoption papers, no custody forms, nothing. Officially, after James died, Ruth lived alone until she moved to Pennsylvania later that year. Margaret felt a chill. Is there anyone still alive who might remember him? Mary nodded slowly. Frank Morrison. He's 94 now. His family owned the neighboring farm. At the Millfield Assisted Living Center, Frank Morrison sat beside a large window overlooking a garden. Despite his age, his memory remained sharp. When Margaret showed him the photograph, his reaction was immediate. "Dear God," he whispered, his hands trembling. "I never thought I'd see that boy's face again." "You remember him?" Frank nodded. "Thomas, that's what Ruth called him, though I never believed it was his real name." He explained that the boy appeared shortly after James died. Ruth was destroyed by grief. Then suddenly this strange child was living there. "Where did he come from?" "That's the strange part," Frank replied. "Nobody knew." Frank described Thomas as quiet but deeply unsettling. When the boy spoke, his words sounded too mature for a child. He seemed to know private things about neighbors and events that happened before he arrived in town. "The animals hated him," Frank continued. "Dogs hid from him. Ruth's cow became terrified whenever he came near." Margaret showed him the second photograph of Ruth standing alone. "What happened to Thomas?" Frank's face darkened. "He disappeared one night in late summer 1931. The next morning Ruth looked relieved, but haunted. Did anyone search for him?" Frank shook his head slowly. "That's the disturbing part. It was like the whole town agreed to forget him." Then Frank leaned forward, lowering his voice. "But there's something I never told anyone. 3 days after Thomas vanished, I saw Ruth digging behind her barn late at night." Margaret immediately called Sarah. Together they traveled to the abandoned Hartwell farm, now owned by a local agricultural company. The farmhouse had collapsed decades earlier, but the barn still stood. With permission from the landowner, Robert Jensen, they used ground-penetrating radar behind the barn. "There!" Robert suddenly said. "Something's buried about 4 feet down." Margaret's heart pounded. "How large?" Robert studied the screen. "About the size of a suitcase, or maybe a small coffin." They called the sheriff immediately. Sheriff David Martinez arrived with forensic experts and Dr. Linda Chen, a forensic anthropologist. After hours of careful digging, the team uncovered a small handmade wooden box buried deep beneath the soil. When Dr. Chen carefully opened it, everyone fell silent. Inside were the remains of a small human skeleton wrapped in aged white cloth. But almost immediately, Dr. Chen looked confused. "These bones are unusual," she said. "The skeletal structure suggests someone much older than their physical size." She pointed to the skull. "The teeth are adult teeth." Margaret A. Ninth Sarah stared in shock. Later that evening, Margaret received a phone call from James Patterson. "I think I know what happened," he said. James explained that he had discovered records from 1930 about a missing child from Nebraska named Timothy Walsh. The child suffered from a rare condition called progeria, a disease causing rapid aging in children. In the 1930s, James explained, people barely understood conditions like this. Timothy reportedly had the mental awareness of an adult trapped inside a child's body. Staff at the institution described him as frighteningly intelligent. Margaret slowly understood the truth. Thomas had not been supernatural. He had been a sick child suffering from a tragic medical condition that nobody in 1931 could understand. Ruth Hartwell had taken him in after losing her own son. When Timothy died, Ruth panicked. She feared authorities would accuse her of murder or worse. Instead, she buried him secretly behind the barn, giving him dignity and peace. 3 weeks later, Margaret stood once again in Elena Hartwell's study as she and Sarah pieced together the final truth. The forensic report confirmed that the remains belonged to a child around 10 years old with advanced skeletal aging consistent with progeria. DNA evidence strongly linked the remains to the Walsh family in Nebraska. Elena's final research note read, "Ruth rescued that poor child from a life of fear and suffering. When he died, she gave him the burial nobody else would have offered." Timothy Walsh was eventually reburied in Millfield Cemetery beneath a proper headstone. The inscription read, "Timothy Walsh, 1920 to 1931, a child who suffered too much, finally at peace." At last, the photograph made sense. Ruth's love had been real. The strange expression on Timothy's face wasn't evil or supernatural. It reflected the pain, confusion, and awareness of a child trapped inside a rapidly aging body during a time when nobody understood his condition. Ion. Ruth was brave, Margaret said softly while looking at the photograph one last time. In a world that feared Timothy, she chose compassion. The mystery that began with one unsettling photograph ended not with horror, but with humanity. Ruth Hartwell carried her secret kindness for the rest of her life, unable to explain the act of mercy that defined her forever. Margaret carefully sealed the photograph inside an archival sleeve. It would now be displayed at the Smithsonian with its full story attached, not as a mystery, but as proof of compassion in the face of fear and misunderstanding. The boy's face no longer looked frightening to Margaret. Now she saw what Ruth had seen all along: a child who needed love, a child who needed care, a child who deserved to be remembered. And in the end, the photograph revealed its real truth. Sometimes what feels strange is simply something we have not yet learned how to understand.